how to find focus when there is so much noise, as you put it, which is really, really accurate. Like you said, HMOs, flips, BRRs, service accommodation, everywhere you look, every time you open your computer, if you've even Googled property once, you're getting bombarded with every single paid ad under the sun. Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Airbnb Nomads podcast. And on this week's Property Education Masterclass, we're going to sit down with the incredible Jamie Greaves. Now, would you like to build a £7 million property portfolio in just 5 years, consisting of super luxury high-end holiday homes across Yorkshire? Does that sound good? Because that's exactly what Jamie did. And guess what? He started with absolutely nothing. He's not a genius. He wasn't born with a silver spoon. This guy did it all from scratch, and he's going to tell you the exact blueprint so that you can do the same. Super ethical, super genuine, a fantastic guy. I can't wait for you to hear this episode. Guys, if you get knowledge from the show, as always, please drop us a follow and leave us a review. It helps us to get this content out to as many people as possible and help them with their own entrepreneurial journey. Until then, settle in. This is a great episode. Here we go. Jamie Greaves, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you for having me. Excited to do it.
Yeah, glad to have you on, buddy. I think myself and anyone else in the property space, we've seen you around on the circuit, seen your social media posts of these stunning serviced accommodation or holiday let properties that you've been turning over the last few years. £7 million property portfolio, completely self-made. I love the story and the brand that you like to promote, which is being ethical, being genuine, trying to create win-wins for everybody, kind of spreading the love, doing things the right way, not trying to, definitely not ripping anybody off, should I say. I love that. The bit of research I've done on you, really, really loving the story behind it, the why. We can get into that. There's lots of juicy stuff there. And also a fellow podcast host, give you a little shout out on the Lifestyle Property. Really cool podcast that James got going on. Lots of tips, tricks, hacks, bits of advice all around the holiday let market. So definitely tune into that. So I guess just to get started, Jamie, why don't you just tell us a little bit about you. I'd like this to be a bit of a blueprint for our listeners at home to tell them how we can go from ground zero, the very beginning, point A, zero, right through to a £7 million property portfolio. Really cool.
Okay, let's do 5.5 years in about 55 minutes. 3, 2, 1.
We can do that.
Easy.
No problem. Bang.
Well, yeah, it's a way better intro than what I can do for myself. So, I mean, there's a reason that I have those values. There's a reason that it's not meant to be a brand. I got sick and tired of people in the property industry not being ethical, not being honest, not being transparent. So it's just me being me. So it's interesting how that's being perceived, really. Would you like to know my story, how I built it, or would you like to know Joe Blogg starting out? This is my advice to them.
Yeah, I think a bit of both, really. I mean, there's you know as well as I do, we're both in similar market. There's a lot of people getting into this space now. There's a lot of training companies. There's a lot of gurus out there selling the bullshit. And, I think this would be a really good episode to maybe speak some truth. Yes, It can be done. You're one of the success stories that's done incredible things, but maybe we can talk about, the right way to do it, who to trust, how to do your due diligence, how to go out and raise money the right way, how to do deals the right way, and how to, end up with a really good result all round, really. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about you and where you began.
Yeah, good. Right, let's get into it. So I began awfully, really, really badly. So the way
That's a great start.
It's a great start, isn't it? Like, do the opposite of me.
Don't listen to anything Jamie says for the next hour.
Correct. I actually did a podcast recently called The UK's Worst Property Investor. And because I was the UK's, if you were worse than me, then you were goddamn awful, because I was, yeah. So I think that there's inherent value, you're right, in stripping it back. And why was I the worst property investor? So my background, working class background, had a corporate career for 10 years, worked my way up, an easier way of life, wanted time freedom, leave the rat race, learned about property, did 2 years prior research into property investment, stock shares. What should I choose? Chose property investment. So came at it with a good baseline of understanding. But my first 18 months were an absolute car crash in that I didn't make any money. I lost money, and that impact that has on you when you're used to like a good lifestyle and things going well, when things are going, it impacts you. So I suppose to get into that, what I did wrong is I tried to do everything alone. That was my biggie, because we're so used to going to university alone and getting a job alone. And I didn't have that leverage teamwork mindset. And then I didn't have anyone to look out for me. So I did training with, I don't know if we can mention companies or not, but there's some bigger training companies in the UK. I did training with one of those. And it was good training, but there was no one there to go to on a weekly basis. Is this a good deal? Is this a bad deal? Should I do this? Should I not? So it led to overwhelm.
How far are we going back, Jamie? When was all this kind of happening?
All the way back. So that was 2019. That was before COVID, 2019. So
Pre-COVID.
I'd been living in Auckland, NZ, came back to the UK, decided to grow the property business, went heavily into training. But then, thought I'd try to do it all myself, and I was, there's a lot of noise out there: HMOs, SA, flips, social housing, and I kind of fell into that mode of trying to do too many things, trying to do everything, and it was leading to procrastination and blind spots, and I was not doing deals, and it ended up me doing a bad deal, which cost half my life savings, which was a bit of a nightmare to go through. Got it back, but it took 18 months to go back. It was just a ball of making all these obvious mistakes that are really, really avoidable. So if you look at any of my social posts the past 4 or 5 years, I'm saying the same things over and over and over, because it's true. If you focus on one strategy, if you get good people around you, if you take action, if you collaborate, if you're really ethical, and start with cash flow, you can do really well. I was doing. Let
me just jump in. Let me just jump in there, Jamie, because what you're talking about is massively, massively, massively important today, and very, very relative to a lot of people listening to this podcast. And it's around how to find focus when there is so much noise, as you put it, which is really, really accurate. Like you said, HMOs, flips, BRRs, service accommodation, everywhere you look, every time you open your computer, if you've even Googled property once, you're getting bombarded with every single paid ad under the sun. What do you advise people who are starting out to do when it comes to choosing a strategy? Because, every strategy's got a different outcome. They're all very different in themselves. So where should someone begin?
Yeah. 3 things really. 1, do as much free or low cost research as possible. So podcasts, brilliant. Books, YouTube, really, really good. Reach out to people. Good. Start there. Don't go and pay for huge training investments right now, because you don't know what you want right now. Do that baseline research. Okay, get a basic understanding of what is SA, what is HMO, what is flips. But then when you're choosing one, and I've really, really benefited from this, you could call it genius or fluky, but I chose SA and Holiday Lets personally for cash flow. I really think everyone should start with a cash flow strategy, because if we just decipher that all those strategies into 3 types, cash flow is things like SA and HMO. Capital, so making lumps of money, might be things like deal sourcing or flips, and then slower assets might be like commercial and buy to lets. I absolutely think people should start in cash flow, because once we've got our bills paid, certainly for me this has happened. Once my lifestyle is paid every single month, you've got time freedom, you've got location freedom. You can then decide: do I want to keep growing this huge portfolio? Oh, and then do I want to go into some of the other strategies? The flips are riskier, but I better do it later on. Or do I want time freedom and to scale it back? So I think top tips are: do baseline research, books, podcasts, YouTube videos, block out the noise, and then choose one cash flow strategy which you're drawn to, it aligns to you. And I'd advise them blocking out the noise. Don't try and do SA and HMO and buy to let. Just choose one, make it your baby, because certainly for my portfolio, every deal's got better than the last one because we learn, okay, well, those things went right. Those two things we should have done slightly differently. So we'll do it better next time and next time. And we've been able to build the kind of portfolio we have because of that kind of continuous learning, because I've stayed in one strategy. I haven't gone, oh, I'm going to do SA for a while, then I'll do HMO and buy to let. So yeah, I'd really advise people start there, really.
It's just a real quick story. And this what we're talking about now, when it really, really hit me in the face, just how extreme it can be. Me and my business partner was doing some training at a certain academy. It was to do with the podcast. This podcast, it wasn't really property related, but they've got another event where they teach everything, or they give you a little snippet of everything in one day. And they fill the stadium, right? And everybody goes and listens to all these different strategies in one day. And we got chatting to a guy in the hotel, and he asked us what we were doing, and we said, "Oh, we're just brushing up on some content education, some podcast content education." I said, "What are you doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm doing this event and learning about everything." And he said he'd signed up for the full training course for every single one of these strategies. So he said, "I've signed up for the BRR, and I've signed up for the SA, and I've signed up for the HMO, and I've signed up for the deal sourcing, and I'm going to go out there and I'm going to kill it." And whether it was the right thing to do or not, but we said, just be careful, because, it's not all gold, and you're going to end up burning your life savings. And if you do a little bit of a lot of things, like you said, you're going to come out, what's the saying, not knowing a lot about anything, which is completely true. Choose one thing and become the best at it.
Well, yeah, we get overwhelmed, right? That is a very overwhelming position to be in, because how to source and set up and finance an Airbnb is different to HMO, is different to buy to let, and we get a confused mind. And I've got in my home office here, the grass is greenest. The grass is greenest where it's watered, and it's really true. They all work. They all make money. They can all lose money. But the more focused we are on one of them and make it your baby, just like you've done, just like I've done, it works. Whereas I suppose we have the hindsight now of looking back and meeting people along the way, and they're no longer in property. And when you peel it back, they've tried to do too many things, and it's really avoidable. So hopefully podcasts like this can help people early on, which is really the big mission behind it. Continuing to water one strategy, one main focus, we get better and better and better, and it leads to a better lifestyle and freedom. I'd not have the portfolio that I have now, or the lifestyle that I have now, if I'd done a little bit of this and a little bit of that and a little bit of this, because we don't know what we don't know, and I'd end up doing a half-assed job on all of it. So really, we want to do a baseline amount of research on everything, and then choose one baby which is aligned to you, and go in all in on that. And then in terms of diversifying into other assets, that's something to do later, once we've got that kind of cash flow and that kind of freedom, and it prevents that overwhelm, which happened to me. So that is the advice that I wasn't following 5 years ago. I did learn about buy to lets and lease options. Oh, no money down. Oh, HMOs, commercial conversion. So I remember having a week where I'd have a day full of BRR viewings, and then a day full of flip viewings, and a day full of HMO viewings. And I'd get to Friday trying to make an offer, and I was like, what am I doing? You'd get confused and overwhelmed. So really, my changing point was when I chose one main strategy. I chose it for the growth in the area, and then for the cash flow, blocked out the noise, and then got around good people, not trying to do everything alone. That's what's gone from scratch to £7 million portfolio, and continues to grow doing that, really.
Yeah. And I think what I'd add to Jamie, and I'm sure you'd agree on this, is for anyone listening thinking, where do I start? Reverse engineer the process. What is it that you want the end result to be? Do you want something that's relatively passive, maybe going to give you maybe potentially slightly less income, but it's more hands off and you can get that lifestyle freedom? Or do you want to grow something mammoth, and do you want to focus on income and money and materialistic things? You just want to be as rich as possible. Maybe that's commercial conversions or new build developments. I don't know, a lot more work required, but maybe more money down the road for the end result. So think about that. And also you've got to have that big why. Everybody talks about it. It's kind of cheesy. Everybody's saying the same thing, but it's so true. Why are you doing it? What are you trying to achieve? Because that's what's going to get you out of bed when shit's going wrong. And it will. and you've got to know why you're doing it. And why don't you tell us a little bit about your why, Jamie? Because I know you've got a big why.
Yeah, I've got a bit of an competitive advantage in property because I happen to have had a life circumstance which gave me a massive, deep, meaningful why, which not everyone would. So my why is really obvious. So my parents have since passed. I'm only 35 myself. I've got two younger siblings who've got special needs. They're autistic, and unfortunately in the UK, I can't talk for other economies, but they don't get the. It's a really over demand, undersupplied, underserviced area for help. So the kind of care workers and support workers they have and who that attracts, and the level of their lifestyle is never going to be to a decent standard. So really, so my why has always been clear. So when I was working in my career, I had the same why, but so the issue was the more that I progressed, while I was earning more money and being taxed more money, I had less time and time for them. So I wasn't able to take them on holidays or take them on days out to London or Liverpool because I was knackered through my day job. So those days off, I was just trying to rest. So my why's become really clear, and I suppose I've got two strands to it really. Strand one was me and my family, which I hit a couple of years ago. So I wanted to get a certain income in from my assets that I own and started rent to own, but then own to pay for my lifestyle, to give me time freedom to help them. So that might be helping them with a job interview. It might be taking them on a day trip, but just give them a better lifestyle than what I otherwise could, which I've done. So I think for those of you looking for a why, it starts at home quite often, and it's good to have an emotional, non-monetary reason why. Mine was my family, but then mine's honestly since grown, Alex. So because I've now got an entry into that world, and I've seen if you go through domestic violence or mental health or special needs as my siblings have got, and if you don't have an advocate for you, if you don't have someone to fight for you through the system that's oversubscribed, then people get pushed to the wayside, and there's some awful stories. So my bigger mission now, and it's why I continue to do the trading business and continue to grow, is make a difference in that world. So fight for those who otherwise don't have someone to fight for, and that might be as simple as making an extra 50 grand profit and donating that to a certain charity, and really growing that, because I have this advantage now of time freedom, and I enjoy my work. So I've decided to lean into that now. And okay, me and my family are now covered, and they're now having a good lifestyle. But there's a lot of people out there who don't have that mother, brother, father, uncle to look out for them, to fight for them. So I'm now looking to make a difference in that world, really.
Yeah, so incredible, and obviously my condolences for for that. That must have been incredibly hard to go through at such a relatively young age. Do you find that adversity maybe gave you some kind of a superpower to push forward and achieve great things?
Yeah, it does. It does. And it's a funny one. We don't want people to lose their parents or their loved ones or
Mm,
go through a health crisis to find it, do we? But it does, because I was an average kid. I was below average. In fact, I was quite naughty. But as soon as you go through something like that, there's an abundant amount of drive and self motivation that comes. So if you don't have that, it's just find causes that are bigger than you. Find causes that are more meaningful than you. It might be children, it might be pets, it might be environment, but make your why as big as possible, because business does come with challenges and it does come with problems to solve. And if you have a why, I mean this from the bottom of my heart, whenever a challenge hits my business now, I just brush it off my shoulder, because I'm elevated. I'm working here. I've got a far bigger mission, a far bigger why. So if anything does go wrong, okay, we got downvalued. Okay, I'll be upset for 10 seconds about it, and then it's straight to a solution. So it really does. If you don't have the life circumstance to give you an obvious why, and it'd be brilliant if you don't, then find that bigger cause, that bigger reason, bigger than you, because it really, not only does it help you along the way, but it allows you to achieve more, because you are able to
mm,
just not get sucked into the daily grind. You're able to work at a different level.
mm.
So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
quite, yeah.
It's it's really so true. That why is very very powerful. And even a lot of people say write it down. Say it in front of the mirror every day. Print it out. Stick it to the wall. Whatever you need to do to keep you motivated when the chips are down. Do it because it's powerful stuff. So we know a little bit about where you started. We know what your why is, which is so powerful. Let's talk about where it began. Like, what were the tangible steps to get you to where you are today? Because, and I say it every time on this show, it's so easy for people at home to listen to you and to look at you and pedestalize people that are on this show that have the multi-million pound portfolios, that have the success, that have some wealth, that are living the dream, as they say. But there was a starting point, right? There was a point where you knew nothing, like you said, were losing money. When did you start to turn it around, and what was the first deal where you started to see that this could possibly work?
If you love to travel like me and you understand the power in escaping the money for time exchange trap, but you just don't know how to do it, then building an Airbnb consultancy business could be exactly what you have been looking for. Right now in the UK, there is a completely untapped opportunity through helping struggling Airbnb hosts by turning around their underperforming properties and generating you huge commission payments in the process. We are going to teach you all of the tools and all of the techniques that we've learned over the last 5 years through building our very own multiple six-figure Airbnb business, arming you with everything that you need to swoop in and save the day. Minimal startup costs, zero risk, and almost unlimited potential. Sound good? Welcome to the Airbnb Consultant. Contact us through any of the channels included in the studio notes to get the conversation started.
Yeah, I started with no contacts, very little money, no knowledge, where most of us start, right? So 2019, I was going wrong. That in that position of overwhelm, running around, I didn't know where I wanted to live or invest, South Wales, Greater Manchester, North East. It really,
Because you're Sheffield, right? You're in Sheffield.
I am, yeah. But I'd been living in Auckland, New Zealand when I was researching property investment. Knew that I was moving back to the UK, but I was quite open where I wanted to live. I'd been living in London, but I hit 30, didn't want to do that anymore. Do I want to move back up north, closer to family? So that actually was quite challenging, because when you've got choice of where to live and where to invest, everything's a possibility.
Yeah.
So I was flirting with South Wales for a while, still got good contacts down there, flirting with Greater Manchester, the Northeast, because it was cheap to invest in. I went to study there some years ago. What changed for me, I can't remember an exact moment, but I just had enough of it not working. So it was all going wrong, and I just took some time back. And this is what I advise now. So I did what you call it, cave time, me time, and it was pen and paper, no internet around. Right, what's my priority? Well, my priority right now is to replace my income, because I'm used to a certain lifestyle. What's my fastest way to replace my income? Well, it's rent to rent. I want to be buying assets, but from what I know, it's rent to rent. Okay, do I want to do HMO or SA? Well, I'm really attracted by owning big holiday lets. So it makes sense for me to do something like rent to SA, because that's going to allow me then to buy holiday lets. And it was as simple as that. Started there, did research into that sector, chose, okay, I'm going to do rent to SA to start with. That's going to replace my salary. If I get good at it, I'm then going to scale that. And then as soon as possible, I'm going to start buying my own assets, because that's really the reason that I've left my career, is to buy assets to give me that kind of lifelong income. And as soon as I did that and blocked out the noise and chose to do that, and then I started to ask for help, which was a new thing. So I would post on Facebook forums and Facebook groups, I've got this deal, is it any good? And I was looking for help on that deal, but I suppose what I was also doing then, and this is a great way for those of you, for those of us who are looking to attract business partners, and that's something that I was mindfully doing. That I was looking for people to work with. I was, I suppose, fishing with bad deals. So because I was getting good at finding deals, I would put a deal on these Facebook forums. Hey, I've got this flat in Manchester. I'm thinking about taking it on as a rent to SA. Do you have any tips or advice? And I was looking for tips, but I was looking for people to work with. That might be management companies, cleaners. And that really changed the game for me, because I had a load of idiots try and pitch me things, and I knew it was a bad deal. I knew the numbers didn't work. I knew the lease didn't allow it, and I could quickly just rule all these idiots out. But from there, I met two business partners, people they weren't meant to be business partners. They were just current SA managers who offered a free call and a coffee, and don't do that deal, Jamie. It's a bad deal. And I could tell they had my best interest at heart, which was rare from what I saw in that industry. And it really started there by focusing, blocking out the noise, and then getting to know these people, and kind of conversation became friendship became business partners, and then we started to build together. So I've not built anything alone. It's always been with business partners.
Yeah, I had a very, very similar story. I was looking to invest in the Northwest and started reaching out on some forums, and a guy got in touch and he just started giving me really genuine advice. It was, like you said, I could tell he had my best interests at heart. He wasn't trying to sell me anything. He wasn't trying to pitch me anything. He was just giving me really good advice. Buy this, don't buy that. Ended up meeting up with him. I think I bought 6 properties that he helped me find. There wasn't any sourcing fees. It was just his advice. But what did happen with him was that he went on to manage the properties, because he's got a letting agent in Manchester, and he's also got a construction company, so he gets all the maintenance work off me as well. Mm-hmm. So, but super nice guy. So reach out to good people. But what I wanted to ask you, Jamie, was, you said that you were finding all these deals. You were getting really good at finding deals. Mm-hmm. That's most people's biggest issue, especially when they're trying to get into serviced accommodation or holiday lets, with the rent to rent game. So how was you starting to source these deals?
Yeah, again, I think I had a bit of a competitive advantage. So my corporate career, so 10 years full time, 7 years while supporting myself through studies, was sales and marketing. So I was used to doing multi-million-pound deals with various stakeholders. So talking to a landlord or a letting agent to get a rent to rent it became we all have an area of genius, whether we know it or not, and it became mine. So I really leaned into that. So I suppose, to give specific tips and advice there around sourcing, I focused on it. I thought big. So we took on entire streets and blocks of houses, and because there was a lot less competition at that level, was very honest. Something that works really well for me is being really honest with landlords and agents, exactly how we'd use the property, exactly the pros and cons. And it is a people business. So by communicate, and the other thing to note within Rent to SA is you have to be fine with rejection. It is more of a numbers game. When you're buying, we're able to stack things. Do I want to buy at that level or not? There's not too much rejection apart from going in low and going up. But within something like Rent to SA sourcing, it is more commercially focused. So you've got to be quite thick-skinned. When I was 19 years old, I didn't have anywhere to live between first and second years of uni. So I went to Australia and did a door-to-door 100% commission-based sales job, which funded me traveling up and down the country. So I had that benefit of
great experience.
It was a great experience, a great lifestyle, and I had that built into me that, well, okay, fine, move on, next door, great, you want to buy it, great, brilliant. So the numbers aspect of going on OpenRent, Gumtree, Facebook, communicating with landlords, getting knockbacks, it was easier for me to do that because of that 10-15 year corporate experience. So I suppose the kind of tip I'd have for people is, if you don't have that, you don't have that. Learn what you can take from your life or your career into property investment. It might be like me, it might be on deals, or it might be organising the finance, or it might be doing the refurbs, it might be the management, but lean into what you've got and your strength. And in the property world, that's mine because of my life and my career history. So it's really lean into what we already have for us, really.
So from the beginning, did you have a really clear idea of, who you was trying to serve, your ideal avatar? Was it contractors, corporates, leisure market?
Yeah.
What properties did you need to source in order to serve them? But you said that you were taking on whole streets as rent to rents. How does that work?
Yeah.
I've never heard of that before.
Yeah, so we learned early on that the less capital that we put into a property for rent to rent, the better. So we're aiming for newer build type properties, newer developments. So we try and target them as well. Not try. We would successfully target them as soon as possible. So and often, if you imagine a new build developer, they might have finished one street and now they're doing the other streets. They're often getting 5, 6, 7 houses ready at once. Yeah. So we just spot the opportunity and ask the question to the developer, hey, have you got any more? And sometimes we'd be a little bit late, and sometimes they'd only have 1 left or 2 left, no problem. But on 2 occasions, they were, we've got a street of 8. Would you want them all? And if the numbers worked, we'd either take them all out ourselves, or we had a bit of a what I'd call lifestyle sourcing business at that point, whereby if we couldn't take them all on because that's 8 levels of 8 sets of setup and we come our own competition, we might give 4 to our clients and hold 4, for example, just by asking the question: do you have any more? Have you got any more units coming? Because again, so the worst thing they could say is no, we only have this left. But the best thing is yes, well, we've got X, Y, or Z. So it really came about through asking and just aiming that a little bit higher, because to do bigger deals, so to take on a block of apartments, it is really not much more work than taking on 1 apartment. It's the same amount of communication, due diligence, and legals, but we get far bigger results, right? We get to our cash flow numbers far easier. So we just purposely chose to aim a little bit higher, and there's actually less competition for those bigger deals. So they're easier to secure because everyone's going after the kind of same smaller stuff, really.
So you were going direct to developer, or were you sourcing these through agents, or were you just walking onto the job sites?
Never the latter. I was always always through either agent or direct to landlords. So we sourced 1 through Instagram. As crazy as this is, so these developers advertise their houses and they promote their houses. And I think I was watching a football game and was scrolling through Instagram, messaged him, started a conversation. Yes, they've got this, and then viewing and conversation. So we took on a healthy amount through agents. I suppose with agents, I'd have less of them, but we don't need many letting agents. If you want to build your own rent-to-say portfolio, you might need 1 or 2 letting agents who are happy to work with you. They get the model, they like you. There's a good amount of trust there. So we did quite a lot of deals with 1 or 2 letting agents, or then direct to developer, direct to landlord.
Yeah, amazing. And how were you funding? I mean, because like you said, if you took on a portfolio of 8 properties, that's some pretty significant furnishing costs and, deposits. And, how was you financing all this to begin with?
So we ran out of money. we ran out of money, which I think everyone does. If you're an investor and you're putting your money into assets, you run out of money. So we started using private finance. So I was quite, and am, and always will be, quite risk averse. I'm from Yorkshire, like working class. I don't love this whole leverage model, borrowing. So early on, I adopted the joint venture model quite heavily because it's far safer, far more secure, rather than private loans. I only ever want to take a private loan when I'm absolutely crystal clear I've got 5 ways of paying back. So we do joint ventures, for example. We'd bring the deal and the management, someone else would put the funds in, we'd then split the proceeds 50-50, that kind of thing. Allowed us to scale and became, I won't get into it on a podcast, but quite tax advantageous that way, staying beneath VAT thresholds and other things. So we just we lent into raising finance, but in a really ethical way, because we had to, because we wanted to keep growing the portfolio, and our money was where our mouth was. We put our own money into our deals early on, and then when that ran out, then and it's the same for the own portfolio that we've gone on to buy and build. Put my own money into our first couple of units. Tend to be quite expensive assets that we buy. That got tapped, and then we'd use the joint venture model and also private loan model to really scale and really grow. Which is a big reason why I've been able to go from 0 to 7 million in 5 years with very little of my own capital, because it was working in that private investor world, not just relying on banks.
Yeah, I mean, it's the dream that you hear about, building these portfolios with none of your own money and stuff like that. And obviously, a lot of people think, well, does it really happen? Obviously, you're proof that it does. So what you So I know you said you didn't want to get into the whole tax part, but were you doing like lots of different SPVs with individual investors to keep it all under the VAT threshold that way?
Yeah. And just to be clear, I did put my own money into my portfolio. I just ran out of it. So because property is quite
Yeah.
a lumpy
Yeah,
game. So I'd the beautiful thing about what I since came to learn is that for a new property, a new deal, we set up a new SPV, so new bank account, new company, but it allowed us to maximize the profit in that business before becoming VAT registered. So we have some SPVs where we went and bought multiple. So, okay, no issue on VAT. We're going to smash through that, no problem. But on others, we might just own one property together, one holiday let that might gross 95K on the nose. We operate that really tax efficient. It becomes a bit of a lifestyle business long term. And I've lent into that over the years because it's a very, I'm sure you understand yourself. If we don't have business partners and joint venture partners, property can be quite a lonely game. We're going against society. We don't have 50 teammates. We're not working for big companies. But when we can share the highs and the lows, and we share the kind of benefits property gives you, joint venture partners can become business partners, can become close friends. So we didn't do it lightly, and we did a couple that were maybe we shouldn't have done because we scaled probably too much too quick, and we learned from that. But when done correctly, I've really benefited through that model and just looking after other people and making sure that they're getting paid back, they're getting good returns. It's very ethical. So you give a lot away, but there's a lot of like safe ethical benefits in that kind of joint venture partnership model.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't think there's anybody that would turn it down, if they could find these JV partners. But I would imagine, and correct me if I'm wrong, would it be quite difficult to find joint venture partners in the rent to rent model? I mean, obviously, once you become more advanced and you're buying these big holiday homes and stuff like that, then I'm sure they're queuing up once you find the deal. But with the rent to rent deals, was it hard to find a JV partner to fund the capital?
Sorry, I shouldn't use facial expressions to
No?
answer a question when on a podcast. So, but no, it's not hard at all.
On a podcast.
Yeah, apologies, because I was for everyone listening. I was shaking my head saying no. So, and then I realised like it's not going to be a video recording, so that doesn't really answer the question. No, it's really
there is, but predominantly people are listening to the audio. So yeah.
so me doing a thumbs up or thumbs down doesn't really help people listening in. No, it was.
Yeah, we need a bit more than that. Yeah.
I suppose I think if you're looking after yourself, it'd be difficult. But if I talk about some of the joint ventures that I did, and also other people that I did within a rent to rent format, which was to your question, we did several whereby the JV partner would get all the profit of that deal before we then share the proceeds 50-50. So if it's 10 grand, for example, just to pick an arbitrary number out, then they'll earn the first 10 grand profit that goes directly back to them as a director's loan, happy days. And then from that point forth, we share it 50-50. That's not hard to finance because it's a really ethical way of doing things. And we're focused on repaying the investor, getting them their money back as quick as possible through the deal. So I think it's just a mindset shift where we don't have money, so we pedestalize it, but really we're giving them value. And if I'm looking after that person and I'm ethical in what I do and I share any problems and I find solutions, then really people have lined up for both because it's giving them value and it's helping them achieve what they're looking to achieve, which is really, it's become my favorite thing to do within property. That kind of collaborative growth together.
It's a good business model, I guess. Pay back the money invested and then split the profit from then on. And how were you finding these joint venture partners? Because there's this issue about the chicken and the egg, right?
Yeah.
You go out, you find the deals, and then you've got to find the money quick. How did that work for you? Did you get the money first and then look for deals, or vice versa?
Both. Yeah, just both, combination really. So I've early on, deals often would come first before having like investors lined up, and then the balance of things changed whereby I was having quite a lot of people reach out to me wanting to get involved or work, and then it was a case of just really vetting people, because it had to be right for us and not just working with anyone. And the mistakes I made was when I didn't do those checks and wasn't careful who I worked with. I just rushed into bed, and I shouldn't have done that. So it's certainly a nice place to get to when you've got various people wanting to work with you, because you can be pick and choose who to work with and how to work. But I had to start somewhere, and no one could start there. I on multiple times, particularly on the purchase side of things, because I really scaled it, moved into buying as quick as possible. I think our first half a dozen purchases, we had the deal before any kind of investor in mind, any kind of financer lined up. But there's ways around that, by having a really good deal. I suppose it really comes down to the deal, doesn't it? If you've got a bad deal, if it's not that good, it's going to be really hard to finance, because it's not going to be profitable.
Mm-hmm.
But if you start with a good deal, so that's always been my focus, really. Find really, really good deals, whether that's a rent to a sale or a BRR to a sale or any strategy you've got. Make it really, really good. Have various exits. Be really clear. Have lots of comparables. Be really conservative in your numbers. Be quite worst case scenario. If it all goes wrong, this is what will happen. I found by being deal focused and by being looking after what would I want to know if I was the investor? I'd want to know if this went wrong or that went wrong. By doing that, it's relatively easy, I found, to attract, if you want to use that word, joint venture partners. What's more, the challenge is working with the right people and growing with the right people, and make sure that you're aligned and you get on, you've got shared values, because they are mini business partnerships, and you want to be in business with people who are connected and aligned with you. So it's a case of not them just qualifying you, but you need to qualify them as well. Like, what are they about? What are their goals? How do they like to work? Are they your kind of person or not really?
And I would imagine when you're starting out, you might want to rip the arm off of the first person that turns up and says, "Hey, can I fund your deal?" So, it must be quite difficult when you're starting to go, "Well, thanks for the offer. First of all, I need to sit down and interview you to see whether you're right for me." So that's a really good piece of advice. Don't jump at the first person that's got a few quid. You've still got to do the due diligence. You've still got to find out who they are. Where's the money come from? All of that stuff. Be smart, be cautious. Really, really good piece of advice, that. And how was you, Jamie? How was you kind of pitching these deals? Because, even if you've got the prettiest, investor pack or pitch deck that you put together, you've got to get it out there. So how were you fishing? Was it regular social media posts? Was it through networking events? How did you go about it?
I don't know. I've never pitched, so I don't like that kind of, because it really is a value. So all of my joint venture partners, every single person I've done a joint venture with, I did not know 5 years ago. So they're all new. Some came through networking meetings, just friendships born over meeting up at the same network meeting time after time. And I never saw them as joint venture partners. They were just helping each other. And some came through social media. So I've been a bit, me giving advice on social media is pot kettle black completely, because I haven't done it as you should do it. If you follow any social media guidelines, you want to be on various platforms, posting 5 times a week, repurposing your content. I didn't do any of that because I'm quite an old soul. I don't like social media. I like real people, like authenticity. So I've never logged into TikTok. I don't have Snapchat. I've not logged into my LinkedIn for 3 years, and I only set up an Instagram account 2 months ago because I got told off by Facebook that I reached the maximum kind of personal friends amount. I was like, well, okay, I'll go over to the dreaded Instagram. So all I did is I would do a post every maybe fortnight on Facebook at the most. So yeah, I suppose I had the mindset of just getting to know more people in property, because I was used to being around people and working in teams, and now all of a sudden I'm working in a home office and I'm not. So I was getting to know people, trying to give more than what I'd ever take, and over time that led to relationships, and then over time that led to trust and people then wanting to get involved in projects. And it was really interesting. People that I sat in training rooms with 5 years ago, having conversations with, well, unbeknown to me, they had 500,000 in the bank and were looking to deploy it, but didn't really trust anyone. And then 3 years later, they want to joint venture with us because of everything that they know about us. So it happened in a very organic way by just building relationships and not seeing people as potential JV partners, just seeing people as people and getting to know them. And if I can offer any help, I could. And often they'd help me along the way as well. What I would, some actionable advice I would give, would be around kind of networking meetings. I haven't gone to one in 4 years now, 3 or 4 years, because you kind of get the same people in the room. It's a cold Tuesday night, here in the UK anyway. It's quite pitchy. I think if you can do something on social media, it's much easier because you can communicate to a lot more people, rather than like 20 people on a Tuesday night. So if you can do something like that, it's certainly better for you.
I agree with that. And I think, I'm not going to play down networking. I think, it can be incredibly powerful. And like you said, it only takes that one person that you meet on that cold Tuesday night. But what generally tends to happen for most people is they go to these breezy, hotel meeting rooms. And because they're naturally quite shy, because it can be quite intimidating, you walk in, you start speaking to someone, you find something in common that might have anything other than, have something to do with anything other than property, like football or the pub. And then you just hide in the corner and you spend an hour speaking to that one person and then it's ended. So I do agree, like a mix of both is really good. But when it comes to the social media, and what we say to our mentees is, you don't have to go out there and necessarily pitch on social media, but just share what you're doing. Mm-hmm. Even if you're just starting out, just share what you're doing. Share the fact that you're sitting there scrolling Rightmove, like share a couple of, some feedback from some phone calls with agents, and then once you start getting deals and you start generating, more money and bigger bookings, share that stuff and tell everybody, man, I just got this £10,000 booking and this is how I did it. And then naturally that's just going to attract people that want, knowledge, advice, and then maybe ultimately want to invest in you. I think that's the best organic way to do it.
It really is, and it's a bit of a cheat code, isn't it? Because you're communicating with dozens or hundreds or thousands of people really easily on a platform that you enjoy. What I found balmy over the years. So when I started out, so I didn't have content, I didn't have properties, I didn't have all these hot tub kind of pictures to use, and I was using it as a forum to get away from working alone and just to get to know more people and just share and comment on others and just build honest friendships. And it never was sought out to attract joint venture partners or private investors. But I've had various people reach out to me and I couldn't believe it. It's like, Jamie, by the way, I've been following you for the past 3.5 years. I like this project and that project and that project.
Yeah.
I'd be really interested in talking to you about joint venture partnerships in future. What do you have on? So I wasn't putting content out for that purpose. I had just good motives just to get to know more people in our sector and make it less lonely and a lot more collaborative. But people do track you over time, and some people just want to get to know you over time. So it's a lot more. It's far easier that way, isn't it? Rather than 3.5 years worth of Tuesday night kind of cold meeting rooms with 10 people.
Sure.
So yeah.
And I think some people they start posting some stuff on social media, and because they're not getting lots of likes and comments, they think this isn't working. But what you just said is so true. Like there will be that one person that's watching your posts, following your journey, being inspired, and that's that person with 500,000 in the bank that doesn't have the time, the knowledge, or the desire to go out and start building a portfolio. So that's when they send you that direct message and say, can we have a coffee?
Yeah, and just be you, or just be. So what I learned. So I both love property investment and property investors, and I hate property investors because there's a lot of fakery out there and people trying to be someone they're not. Just be you. If you're and you just communicate how you like to communicate in your way, you'll attract people who are like you and who are like-minded. But if you try and be someone you're not, you're just going to attract people that think you're that person that you're not, and it's a really futile game. And that's something that I've suppose if you can grow your social media and not give a damn about likes or engagement, I didn't really even fully understand all them things until quite recently, but just be doing it for you and putting out how you are and what you're about, you will attract people one way or another that are your kind of people by being authentic and not just doing something because you think that's how you should be. Them kind of people, I think, come and go within a year or two in our industry because they just get found out.
All right, so let's move on. Rent to rent, it's great, great cash flow business. You're starting to generate some income, but we all want that legacy wealth. We all want assets. We all want ownership. So, how did you go from renting properties to owning these stunning holiday homes that people have to go and check out the pictures to believe?
Yeah, doing rent to rent helped massively because it gave a lot of confidence to our joint venture partners that we knew what we were doing because we were already in the business. So it was it's a good way to start. Really, I think I started the buying process as quick as possible. So I wasn't on my cash flow number before we started buying because in England anyway, it takes a while to go through the conveyancing process to get them bought, to get them refurbed and let. Even if you're buying at auction, you've still got the refurb period. So I started buying back in 2020, so 4 years ago now. Yes, quite relatively early on. Use my own funds with a JV with my business partner. Sorry, on the first one, but it was because I'm not very. I'm way more comfortable taking risks now because I've got so much more experience and knowledge and team around me. When I started out, I didn't want the big heavy refurb BRR projects over leverage. So we went kind of steady refurbs. So we tied up capital for 2 years. So we put our own money into the first one. We quickly then ran out of our own funds, but we put authentic content out there. And then we attracted so the deal came first on the second, third, fourth, and fifth ones. And so the deal came first, attracted a joint venture partner per one. And really lent into that. So if you can imagine some kind of what's that playground thing, seesaw kind of, yeah. So I was the kind of big kid sat on one end, getting all my income from rent to SA, nothing from buy to SA. And then over time, it just changed whereby, okay, we get another one bought and set up, and then that was then making money, So over time, my income would increase through the own portfolio, and I could rely less and less on the rent to SA portfolio. So if any rent to SAs were problematic, or I didn't want them anymore, or the landlord this or the landlord that, I had the option of not renewing that rent to SA or giving that one back, no problem, because I was getting the income from buy to SA, which took 2 or 3 years. And now my income's all from the buy to SA portfolio. Still got 4 or 5 rent to SAs left where they're completely outsourced to a third-party manager who I trust with my life. It's very passive, but we've given all the other ones back because we put our time into other things, and they served a life-changing, amazing, grateful purpose. But so now on that seesaw, it's through the buy to SA portfolio. So it happened over time. And I'm really grateful.
So how many buy? Yeah. How many deals have you done now where you've, bought, refurbed, refinanced into these luxurious holiday homes?
I'd have to check my spreadsheet for how many exactly, but it's around 20 deals, 40 properties. Because some of those deals would be one deal for one property, and some of those deals will be one property, so one deal for multiple properties. So it's about 20 individual deals and about 40 individual properties that we own in the portfolio that are either a holiday let or a contract to SA.
Wow, that's amazing. And with the bigger holiday homes that I've seen the pictures of, that are absolutely stunning. Were you going for like commercial valuations on the exit? How did that work? Were you confident you get commercial valuations or not?
No. I don't. So if I will happily give my thoughts on commercial vals on right now because you just asked a question on it, I think that is building a castle on sand. I think it's a very risky place to be in. I think you're over leveraged. You've only got one or two lenders. They often get their funding lines from one bank. If they change their terms and conditions, what are you going to do? So within HMOs, for example, I've got friends that I could not sleep at night if I had that kind of leverage. They've gone out and they've spent 250 on a house. They've spent 200 grand on the refurb, so they're all in before 50. Bricks and mortar, it's worth 350. But they've gone and got a commercial revaluation at 600 grand with Shawbrook. But there's only one or two lenders there doing that. So that their lending is more than the bricks and mortar price. It's not something that I would ever be comfortable with doing. We're doing a commercial refinance on our hotel that we own because it's a commercial product. So it's a C1 hotel. We'll do a commercial refinance on that, no problem. But all of the others are on a bricks and mortar refinance where if anything went wrong and holiday lets and Airbnb got banned by the UK government, well, no problem. We've got amazing family homes where we've added a load of value. We could exit the portfolio, bank hundreds of thousands of pounds and go on elsewhere. So no, we've not done commercial revaluations, nor would I want to, because I think it's a really risky place to be if you're reliant upon that to build your equity in your portfolio. It's car crash waiting to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. I guess the only question that leaves is how were you able to create such a big, uplift in value on bricks and mortar valuations? Was it just through insane refurbs, luxury fittings, add-in space extensions? What's the go-to method that works?
Not always. That works. Most things work as we focus on it. So we've done many a deal whereby the refurb was relatively light and we knew we'd leave our money in for 2 years. So we bought it on a mortgage with a joint venture partner. We explained clearly, this is not an aggressive strategy. This is a slow and steady BRR. We'll do a refinance in 2 years. And through a combination of buying it a little bit below market value and then adding some value and then the market appreciating within that time as well, then we've been able to pull capital out. Had the market not appreciated in that time, okay, then we might have left some money in. But it's when you're leaving money into these kind of assets, as you'll know for your own portfolio, they generate a far higher cash flow than something like a buy-to-let. So me and our JV partners are quite comfortable doing that. We're not necessarily always looking for no money left in unicorn deals because they don't need to be. The money's tied in the house. It's on the balance sheet. It's slow and steady. It's really safe. So if anything goes wrong, we can exit that so many ways. So we've done it all over the years. We have done really big refurb projects and added bedrooms and added floor space and got huge uplifts and pulled all our money out. But we've also done some where we've furnished it, painted carpet, light refurb, 20k refurb, and we've bought that bought that under market value and let Father Time look after us. And okay, it might be 4 years that it takes to get all of our money out of that property, but if we're cash flowing that property to a high level now, none of my business partners or ourselves have any problem with that model, and it's safe. So yeah, it's not always been hyper aggressive, which is hopefully useful for those who are more like me, who don't want to take huge risk, who would rather go slow and steady and build something really long term. Yeah, so we've done a mixture of both, really.
I mean, I love that, and I love the way that you've gone about building the business and building the portfolio. It doesn't seem like there's been enough time for you to have done all this in a slow and methodical, risk-averse way, because we're talking about 5 years here, right?
Yeah, well, it's a benefit of going all in on something, isn't it? It really is. So I've gone all in, left my former career, made this my baby, made it a big mission of mine, and not done it alone. Really, this really important point. I would not own anywhere near this kind of portfolio. If anything, if I tried to do it alone, but in my business, I would find the deals and handle the finance, and that's it. I don't get involved in management, don't get involved in bookings, don't get involved in refurbs or builders, none of it. we've learned that the hard way over the years. So because we've got that hyper focus, it's enabled me to sharpen my tools on getting the best deals, for example, and doing the best finance. And if my business partners can sharpen their tools with regards to refurbs and management and bookings, it's honestly been 2 + 2 = 5, because we've been able to do far more in a short space of time. If I was trying to do everything myself, there's no way I'd own anywhere like that kind of portfolio. That's allowed that kind of scale, because we get better at what we focus on, right, and what we make our baby and what we can really harmonize. So I've got better and better and better at finding deals because I've just focused on that for 5 years. I've not had to think about OTA platforms and bookings and regulation changes and this or that. It's not been my world. I focused on what I'm good at and try to become world class at that. That's really allowed us to do it, and it seems slow to us because we've had that grand ambitions for more. So it's without doing these risky commercial valuations, by focusing on what we're good at, really. So yeah, never get me to set your property up. Never get me to do interior design, because I'm completely awful. So yeah, just kind of focused on what
it's absolute. Maybe you're talking yourself down a little bit, but phenomenal growth to have done what you've done in 5 years, and the projects, absolutely beautiful. And I definitely tell anyone to go and check out some of your stuff on Facebook. The pictures are absolutely stunning. So you obviously know what you're doing. So wrapping things up, Jamie, what's the kind of end goal here? Is it just to keep going, rinse and repeat? You've obviously found a strategy that works. You're good at it. You've got your investors on board. You've got your portfolio under the belt. Is it just to keep growing, or do you have like a very clear, okay, enough is enough, we're going to stop it here, and I'm just going to kick back from, I don't know, 38 onwards and just lay on a beach and drink margaritas?
I don't think we're actually programmed to do that, are we? I think we think we want that. I take holidays quite often, and then after 3 or 4 days, I get bored silly. I need things to do. We've got a real clear plan. So I'd coin this champagne socialism. It's not my term, it's coined elsewhere. You hear Gary Neville talking about it, Marcus Rashford. I love property. I love what it can do and the benefit of it. I found my baby. I found what I'm good at, what I'm bad at. I don't want to stop that, but I don't want to just grow for growth's sake. I'm not greedy. So it's twofold. It's lifestyle for me, I mentioned earlier. So making sure that me and my family are living the kind of our lifestyle on a daily basis. But then 2, it's using the kind of power of property and all the knowledge I've learned over the years, and it's growing other trading businesses that have a societal impact. I mean it real clearly. So if I can go and do something, it might well be a flip, for example. Okay, we're going to do a flip using our team, using this, using that in our areas. We've got lots of holiday lets, great. And if I can use that then to fund a charity or do some good with the proceeds, and that's my calling long term now. That's what kind of keeps me motivated. It's knowing that I can keep working and keep enjoying what I'm doing, but it's going to help others on a really human basis, really, which is me. That's aligned to me, and it's aligned to my kind of values and my whys. I think that's what I do love about property. Once you get your cash flow sorted, you've got choice if you want to travel the world, you want to start this or start that. I've lent into that because of my own personal circumstance, what I've been through family, and it's really that kind of mission is probably the most motivating thing I've ever had now, because I'm not just working for ourselves. It's really nice, with a good lifestyle along the way. That's why it's maybe called champagne socialism. I think so. We should be happy to talk about making good money and having good holidays and treating our own family, whilst then being socialist with our values and then helping others. And because there's a lot of causes out there which need funding, right? A lot of causes which could do a lot of good with.
And you've obviously seen that on the front line, with your story about your siblings. So It keeps coming back, Jamie, for me to the same thing here is that everything that you've achieved, which is, absolutely incredible, has been done because of this why and the experiences that you've had and the adversity that you've gone through. And that's kind of given you this superpower to push you forward. And now that you've achieved that, it's like, okay, we're going to take things even to the next level based on this even bigger why of serving others, right? Which is so powerful when you just compare it to, oh, I'm going to buy, the next Lamborghini and, buy the new Rolex watch. Like, who fucking cares? We're all dust at the end of the day. So you got to do good things for others. Otherwise, what's the point in any of it? So I love that.
Yeah. And just finding what works for us, right? So I won't knock someone who wants to drive that sports because maybe they've wanted it their entire life, but I'm a god awful driver and I'm really risk averse. So like, there's no point in me having a sports car because I will go at the speed limit and it's a complete waste of that engine. So I know my why. I've become quite clear about that, and it's just staying mindful of that, but also really importantly, in and this is something I was bad at early on, and maybe people fall into this, enjoying our life now. So I was a little bit guilty of just grow the portfolio, work. Oh, I'll do a viewing on a weekend, no problem. I'll do this, I'll do that investor pack on a Sunday night, no problem, because I love my business. I really lent away from that now. I don't work weekends, I don't work evenings, I prioritize family. That might just be taken to Nando's and cinema on a Tuesday afternoon, but it's that quality time, and it's making sure that I'm having the lifestyle and the health and the holidays that I want now. So it's staying mindful of that. Otherwise, again, why have this lifestyle business if we're not going to enjoy our lifestyle and we're just going to work ourselves into the ground? Well, there's easy, just go and get a job for that. There's no point having building assets or working with builders and accountants if you're going to do that. So yeah, it's that dual focus really of enjoying our daily present with our family, but also, yeah, growing that bigger mission. And it's interesting to know where that bigger mission goes, because it might well be setting up our own charity. It might well be having a conversation like this, which sparks an idea and a connection to someone else's cause that you then fund, but keeping a really open mind to it and just staying true to our bigger why. Really,
I love that, and I'm a big believer in that good things do come to those good people that are trying to do good things and are trying to do things the right way and the ethical way, and really help people and give good advice and not pretend to be someone else, and all of that stuff that we've covered. I think people can learn a lot from that, because like you said earlier, property is it's a bit of a bullshit smoke screen, smoke and mirrors, snake oil industry where everybody's just doing incredible things and making all this money and doing all these deals, when in reality it's it's not really true. So definitely a lot to learn from that, what you've said.
If you can give without any expectation of anything back in return, you will end up with everything you want and more. It's a crazy world, isn't it? But by me, just because I was putting out content over a few years or so, just sharing my journey, giving honest tips and advice, I was doing that because I was in that state of overwhelm in 2019, and I lost money and I did a deal gone wrong. And when you lose money, it has an impact on your mental health, on your relationships, on your appetite. Because I went through that, I wanted to make sure that if I could give back in any way, I would. So I'd start do the social posts, and I'd give advice to it, make sure to get around people, focus. Because when I didn't do that, I was going wrong. But by doing that, I had no intention of that attracting joint venture partners. I was just doing that because of what I went through. But because I was giving back, in hindsight, having this conversation, I realized by doing that, it's attracted people who want to, okay, you're being honest, you're being authentic, you're helping it. You
could see you as being genuine,
Yeah. So by just trying to look after others, even if you don't mean for it, the universe then looks after you. And,
it does.
And it keeps you in long term. You're not a flash in the pan, here one day, gone the next. You're in it for the long term. So yeah, I think we can all have that way of life. I think we'd all get that kind of lifestyle that we want far easier, and the world would be better, and there's not really any downside to it, really.
Fantastic bit of wisdom there. Just be yourself, be honest, be genuine, and just try and help others. We'll come back around. Jamie, great conversation. So much goodness in there. I love the story. And, you talk a lot about, what you're not good at, but I think listen back to this podcast and maybe you'll realize some of the incredible things you've done, and to do it in 5 years, to grow a portfolio of that size and with the numbers that you're hitting is phenomenal. So kudos to you, and pretty sure you've inspired lots of others to go out there and give it a crack as well. So really appreciate hearing your story.
Good. Hope it helped. I'm not special. Jose Mourinho called himself the special one. I'm not. I'm normal. I'm from Sheffield. My dad was a taxi driver. So hopefully others can then realize, okay, right, there are normal people out there building this lifestyle in a normal way, and hopefully it does. So no, thank you. This is actually I've said no to podcasts the past 3 years because I've not been that switched on. So you're my very first. You've taken my cherry, Alex. So I hope
I've popped your cherry.
You popped my cherry. Yeah, you popped my podcast cherry. While I have my own podcast, you're the first podcast that I've got onto. So hopefully it was useful. Hopefully me nodding and putting my thumbs up and thumbs down didn't impact the podcast too much. And
not at all.
Good.
It was. I feel honoured, and appreciate you saying that, and appreciate you giving us your time. And thank you to everybody for listening and watching at home. Hope you got value from that and enjoyed your time listening to Jamie. We're going to put all of Jamie's information in the show notes, all of his handles, his websites, his contact info. So if you want to reach out and pick his brains and find out how to build your own £7 million property portfolio, I'm sure he would welcome those contacts. So until next week, guys, thanks for listening, and we'll see you then on another episode of the Airbnb Nomads podcast. Till then, take care. Goodbye.